呢名男子姓朱名濤，年齡44至48。佢名下嘅生意有夜總會、出入口同埋地產等等。我哋查過佢所有生意，差唔多全部都係蝕本嘅。
喂，上面嘅情形點樣？
呢個叫喪明，係佢近身保鏢。其他嗰啲，佢話係佢個伙計嚟，其實全部都係佢嘅打手。
小心啲啊！驗廠見啊！你喺上面等我。
哦。
朱丹尼，聽講係佢嘅侄，平時有班人跟住佢。呢個係高約翰，似乎係朱濤嘅師爺嚟。呢名女子叫薩莉娜芳，喺我哋調查嘅後期先出現喺朱濤嘅身邊。對於朱濤嘅事，究竟知道有幾多？對我哋嚟講，暫時仍然係個謎。我哋今次嘅任務係要拘捕所有參與販毒嘅人。今次行動嘅代號命名為獵豬行動，大家明白未？
明白。打開面前嘅信封，讀讀指令，每個人嘅指令只係適合自己用嘅啫。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Heroic Purgatory, an Asian cinema podcast. Today we'll be talking about Jackie Chan's 1985 movie Police Story. I'm your host, John Adam, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jason Marr. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing fine. Just spent the day watching films, specifically Police Story, in preparation for the episode.
So I guess everything about our podcast is still in an experimental stage, but I was thinking that before we actually start our discussion, we can maybe indulge ourselves a little bit and talk about not just our weeks, but what have we been watching and what have we been reading, or anything that sort of has made us happy since the last time we talked. So would you like to start with that?
Well, in terms of what I've been reading, I've been struggling through Bonfire of the Vanities, a novel about New York in the 1980s by Tom Wolfe. It's really dense, and so far it hasn't hooked my interest yet. He's busy setting up the characters, but I'm just not terribly interested in them. I've actually got another novel I'm desperate to get to, The Summer of Obume, which is like a Japanese supernatural mystery novel. So I'm going to try and plow through Bonfire of the Vanities just so I can get to something I find more enjoyable. In terms of what I've been watching this week, it's been mostly Jackie Chan, sort of his early films and Police Story. And I've also watched some anime, Angel Cop. It's something I watched when I was a teenager, and I wanted to revisit it and go back through some of the classic episodes because they've got dubs by Manga UK, which were like so melodramatic. They've gone down in internet meme history.
What year is that?
Angel Cop was made in 1994, and so they're all available on YouTube actually.
Yeah, so if not mistaken, that's sort of the era where anime started getting to the West, and it was. I remember reading one time about the history of anime, and when it was sort of like there's this one author that I don't remember his name, unfortunately, seemed to divide the era before Akira and after Akira, and everything that was made after Akira was sort of because it was the time that manga was beginning to be exported, that affected production. So a lot of anime were made with the knowledge that there was a good chance it might be exported into the West.
Yeah, I think Akira was probably the big breakthrough movie, and it actually came to help define the style of neo-noir, or cyberpunk I should say. And I think Manga Entertainment in the UK, they played a big part in bringing over titles like Akira, and they went on to bring over more sort of genre cinema examples like Ninja Scroll, perhaps MD Geist, and so it's like a lot of sex and violence in a myriad of different settings. Appleseed as well, very popular cyberpunk title. and they were shown in the UK sort of like in the evenings and late at night, so on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I would often try and stay up and watch them.
Yeah, and I remember, again, this is purely from memory. I might be remembering it wrong, but I think Akira was the first anime whose production budget could have not been recovered domestically. So they had no choice but to market that film outside Japan, because there was no way they could have made their money back.
I'm not too familiar with that aspect of the film. I know, like, the biggest anime film prior to that was Royal Space Force: The Wings of Honeyamese, which the studio Gainax was founded to create. I'm not too sure about Akira, though.
I think I remember that was being part of sort of my reading, but again, maybe some listener will correct us in that regard. So what else have you been watching or reading? Is that anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's about it, really. So I've been preparing to go back to work. My workplace reopens next week, so it's been a lot of literature to read surrounding how to protect oneself from COVID-19.
This was also a slow couple of weeks for me. I had some work related conference that I had to attend, and I was that sort of kept me a lot busier than I would have usually been. But I did manage to watch a couple of interesting films. Of course, I did revisit a lot of Jackie Chan's work. I didn't watch many of his movies from start to finish, but I did read about him. I tried to watch a couple of interviews. I watched Police Story and a few of its sequels, and I also watched The Protector, his American film, which he made. I had seen it before. I remembered very little of it, but I distinctly remember that I had seen it before. I also watched a very interesting movie that it surprised me how much I liked it, and that was mid-90s, directed by Jonah Hill. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. How is it?
It's a very indie type of film. It looks indie. It looks like it was shot on a Super 8, although I don't think it was. And it was very good. I was very surprised by how much. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I thought it was very accurate in its representation of the time, and I also enjoyed the story quite a bit. In fact, actually, quite an insane coincidence. I happened to review around the same time a film for V Cinema called House of Hummingbird. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh, it's the South Korean film?
Yes, they came out pretty much around the same time, and they are surprisingly similar to each other in subject matter. They're both set around the mid-90s. They both feature teenage protagonists around the same age, going through more or less the same kind of conflicts and troubles. So it was a really, really strange coincidence that I just happened to see both of those films at the same time, separated by one day apart, and they were very similar to each other. But I enjoyed both of them. Mid-90s especially surprised me. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I watched, there was a South Korean science fiction series that just came out called SF8, and I watched the first episode of that. It is essentially a Korean version of Black Mirror, and I think that's my main criticism of it. It's too much like Black Mirror. I think I would have liked it a little bit more to have its own identity, to sort of take maybe the same premise that the Black Mirror series has, but maybe make it a little bit more Korean, a little bit more South Korean, and introduce something new to the table. But at least the first episode, that was the only one that was available to me. It did not seem to do that. It seemed just, if you replaced the South Korean actors by British actors, it could have as well been a Black Mirror episode.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, but if you're okay with that, then I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
As for reading, I'm always reading fiction, but that's nothing noteworthy at this point. But one book that is kind of keeping my attention is a book about the history of science fiction. Particularly, it's called Astounding, and it particularly focuses on the what's known as the golden age of science fiction, starting from the 30s all the way to the 50s. It's written by let me see if I remember the author's name, Alec Navala Lee. Yeah, I think that's him. And it's almost like a combined biography of several key personalities that sort of help create the field of science fiction literature, of course. that it was sort of that was defined as we know it today, right at that time, like starting from the 30s, technically the late 20s, but at the time it was more sort of indistinguishable from the pulps. But that's what it started to get its own identity, starting in the mid to late 30s, and then the golden age started in the 1939. That's sort of considered the official start of the golden age of science fiction, and ended in the late 50s. And sort of it's a very well written book. It doesn't contain anything new or surprising about the people revolved around that time, but it's very well written, and it's keeping my attention.
One thing that I did watch, which isn't Jackie Chan related, is Miller Crow's A Love Story. And that's a Japanese film from 2011, directed by Yoshimasa Ishibashi. And it's got Takayuki Yamada in the lead role. And he plays 3 different characters who experience love in different degrees. So one character is a one-eyed Ronin who's searching for his lost love. Another character, Ovranelli Vranagari. Sorry for the pronunciation, it's a very strange name. It's a bit of a man-child who's like at the mercy of a mysterious woman's whims, and she's the Miller Cross of the title. And there's another character, Kumagai Bresson, who's like this character from the 70s who's like a relationship expert who gives men advice on how to woo women. And there's lots of dance sequences. He dresses up like John Travolta from Saturday Night Live. And it's a really delightful film because it's done in so many different styles relating to the characters. And Takayuki Yamada gives a larger-than-life performance, bringing these very different characters to the screen.
Can you repeat the title and the director of the film?
So that's Miller Croze. That's Milocrorze, and A Love Story. And the director is Yoshimasa Ishibashi. And it's actually got a cameo appearance from Seijun Suzuki.
Oh, so you said 2011, right? And he died in 2018? 2017?
2017.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I'm sure Suzuki's going to be one of the directors we'll come to with this podcast because he's had such a massive impact on Japanese cinema and world cinema.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to, of course, everyone's familiar with his 60s work, but it'll be interesting to at some time also cover some of his later works, which I've heard they're quite, I don't know what word to use. I haven't, I don't think they quite match the quality of his best known work, but people have described them as noteworthy, and I haven't seen. So it would be interesting to maybe visit some of, explore some of those films at some point.
Yeah, they were, 3 of them were recently put out in a box set by Arrow Videos. So Yumeji, I'm going to forget the titles, I know it, Kagoroza and Ziger Weissen. So that was like a trilogy that Suzuki made after he got back into directing, after sort of falling out of the film world with his confrontation with Nikatsu over the company sort of firing him. And like Princess Raccoon and Pistol Opera as well, 2 of his later works.
Princess Raccoon and Pistol Opera, I've heard of those. All right, so I think that's probably enough indulgence on our parts. We should get to the before we get to the actual movie, we also wanted to try out a segment of announcing news, right?
Yeah.
So we have, and we can just mention things that might be of interest to our listeners or maybe not. One big thing that everyone should check out is the New York Asian Film Festival, which is, because it's online, anyone can go to their favorite web browser and actually watch the movies on the festival, which pleases me a lot because I know that I would not have been able to attend the festival otherwise, but now that it's online, I can certainly go and watch the movies that I'm interested in watching.
Yeah, it runs from August 28th to September 12th, and there are over 50 films programmed, and you can watch some of them with this app called Smart Cinema, which can be installed on smartphones and tablets.
Will this be available in the UK? I haven't heard anything about that.
I think this is only open to people in America. So one of the things with having an online festival is many of them are region locked, and because New York is in America, it's only going to be available to Americans. It might be worth double checking though, but that's what I understand.
I have no idea about the legality of this, but you can always use a VPN if you really, really wanna check it out. You can do something like that to maybe bypass the geo restrictions. But we're certainly not endorsing that kind of behavior.
I think as long as like you can contribute to the festival or the films legally, then yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, because you'd have to pay anyway. All right, and then after that we had, I'm looking down the list here, we had the Train to Busan sequel, Peninsula, which is just seeing a virtual release.
Yeah, and some theatrical screenings as well. I read a review over on Polygon.com by Karen Han, and not necessarily super positive. It sounds like it's overly ambitious and not focused enough, whereas Train to Busan is super focused. There's a group of characters stuck in a confined setting, forced to work together against zombies, whereas this latest one is bigger.
Have you seen Train to Busan?
Yeah, I watched it for the first time last year, and I was very impressed. Have you seen it?
No, everyone keeps telling me, and again, it's my my self-admitted bias of horror movies, and I've just it's not that I've intentionally avoided. It's just the opportunity never presented itself.
Yeah.
To watch it, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I might just do it now so I can watch Peninsula, because I'm sure it's a good film. Everybody whose opinion I trust has recommended it to me, so I have no objection to watching it. I just haven't had the chance.
Absolutely. Go ahead, watch it and let me know how you feel about it.
Sure. And then you added another item here that there is a massive release of Jackie Chan's work.
Yeah, it's a film label I only just discovered after doing some research for this podcast. 88 Films have been releasing some of Jackie Chan's works from the 1970s, 1980s, and they are going to release another collection October, November, and December. So The Young Master, Shaolin Wooden Men, New Fist of Fury, and Spiritual Kung Fu. So 4 films. And I think they're getting the Blu-ray treatment.
Okay, and I'm assuming these are not the butchered dubbed version, but they would be in their original language.
I haven't got that information. It's just a Twitter announcement I came across.
I can't imagine anybody doing the same thing that they did to Jackie Chan movies in the 90s, where they dubbed them in they did a pretty poor job at dubbing them and also cutting them and editing them without the original creator's permission. I can't imagine anybody else doing that today. So I would imagine that they're subtitled, and which is also the cheapest option.
Yeah, just to keep that original flavor.
Yes. I can't watch, even when it's Jackie dubbing his own voice, I just can't watch them in English. It loses, there's a certain comedic, there's something, especially his comedies are enhanced by his actual acting, and dubbing just diminishes that a little bit.
Yeah, the timing and intonation of a voice has a massive effect on how a joke lands.
Absolutely. And with all due respect to Jackie, he just could never master the English language, no matter how much he tried.
He tried very well in The Protector. There are some really great lines that made me laugh.
Oh, yeah, especially when he throws the F-bomb around left and right.
Yeah, when he steals the boat.
Yeah, all right. So I guess that's a perfect segue into our film, Police Story, released in 1985, directed, written, choreographed, and starring Jackie Chan. Would you like to do us the honor of summarizing the plot of the film?
Yeah, sure. So Jackie stars as an exemplary Hong Kong police officer, Chan Ka-kui, and he's part of a massive police sting operation to catch a drug lord named Chu Tao, played by Cho Yun. So the raid goes off, but there are some hiccups, and this leads to some impressive stunts as Jackie manages to arrest the criminals. However, it's not over, because he's assigned to protect Chu's secretary, Selena Fong, who's going to be a witness in the case. The police hope that she'll reveal some incriminating information about her boss. And in typical Jackie fashion, he screws up the assignment, and Chu is set free due to a lack of evidence. Upon release, Chu is hell-bent on revenge, and decides to ruin Jackie's, Chan Ka-kui's career and reputation. And so Chan ends up framed as a cop killer and goes on the run. So he has to find a way to clear his name as well as save his relationship with his fiancée, Mei, who's played by Maggie Chung.
All right. And of course, like any Jackie Chan movie, the plot is almost secondary to the action and the impressive stunts that he performs. And there's certainly, this one is one of his most, not necessarily in terms of stunts per minute, the most packed, but I think in terms of impressiveness, he's really at the top of his form here. Before we go into our analysis and whatever we decide to talk about, what's your sort of quick opinion? When did you first watch the movie, and what did you think of it?
So I first watched it as a child, on a VHS, and I absolutely loved it. It was I watched all of Jackie's 80s works around the 90s, and like any kid, I was impressed by the fighting and the stunts, and he became a sort of hero. Like, name recognition was high in my household, and a lot of my friends in high school who liked Asian cinema also knew who he was, and we were all always talking about his films. And then like a gap of 10 years passed, when I was in high school, university, a channel in the UK called CNX broadcast them again, so I was able to watch them again. And then more recently, after another decade, I watched Police Story, and I was surprised at actually how violent it was compared to my childhood memories. I think a more experience in life gave me a greater appreciation of the pain that was being inflicted on everybody.
Yeah, I think my story is the same. I'm sure I've watched it when I was younger, but I have no memory of it. To me, Jackie was, just any Jackie film was just a Jackie Chan film. In fact, in a lot of, I'm pretty sure most of the films I watched were in that English dubs, and for some reason, in a lot of those films, they change his name to Jackie Chan. Whatever character he might be playing, he's always named Jackie Chan. I'm not sure if you've encountered that in your experience.
No, that's a detail I don't remember.
A lot of his movies were, he was in the English dub, he's just named Jackie or Jackie Chan. Sometimes just Jackie without a last name. But I think like you, and this might be by virtue of being exposed mostly to his 90s work, I think those played more often on television because that's when he sort of turned to a PG-13 style. So I think I had that impression of him. I didn't have the impression that he made films that were very violent or that had any blood in them, or even sexual jokes or any sex or physical attraction whatsoever. And sort of when I watched this as an adult, I was also very surprised at how much sex and violence and blood and maybe realism like this film had to a certain extent. I mean, Jackie loses it at the end.
Yeah, especially that final 10-15 minutes when the pressure's really on him. It gets really intense and the violence amps up to match the intensity.
Yes, and that's sort of what I miss from his later films when he became a lot more of an international name. So he wanted to like maximize his appeal. So he sort of toned a lot of that down. But this film has nudity. You actually see Jackie's butt at some point. Has a lot of sexual jokes, sexual innuendos, maybe an attempted rape at some point, or although a mock or a mock attempted rape. I don't know what you would call it.
Right.
So it was. I was impressed by it, and to this day remains one of my favorite Jackie Chan films. I don't think it's his best objectively.
Oh, which film do you think is his best?
That's a good question. I would maybe put Project A in that category, or in terms of stunts and physicality, that he did a movie a year before that, something Dragon. I'm not sure, Young Dragon or something. He made it in '82. I could probably look it up, and that has some really, really impressive stunts and impressive fight scenes. The story is also a period story.
Is it Dragon Lord?
That's probably it. Yeah, Dragon Lord. If it's 82, yeah, that's exactly the one. I think that I remember that having some really, really impressive stunt work. And I also think that's also one he directed. Yes, he directed that one. And Project A, those are probably, I think, maybe his two best ones. I think especially Project A has an actually really good story, whereas a police story it doesn't have a bad story at all, but kind of, I think it's maybe a little bit overshadowed by the stunt work in it.
I think Police Story is as bare bones as it gets, but it helps propel the action.
Yes, and we can perhaps transition into production details and Police Story. Like, I couldn't find an exact confirmation of this, but I have no reason to doubt it, that like most of his films, he designed the story around the stunts. So planned the stunts first, and then, said, let's figure out how we get to each of these set pieces. And I think that contributes to the bare boneness of how simple the story is. And I think it actually works. I think the story, if you read it on paper, you might think that this is nothing impressive, but I think it, on a film,
it's like the cliches.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, it helps get. And I couldn't. I also watched Police Story 2, and I just could not. I had forgotten how slower Police Story 2 is than Police Story 1.
Yeah, it's more of a police procedural, and you're introduced to a wider cast of characters.
Yeah, and they also a story a lot more elaborate than Police Story 1. Police Story 1, I was at some point I paused it to go to the bathroom, and the movie was halfway done, and I just couldn't believe it. I said, "What? The movie's halfway through? It just went by so fast." And I think that's why it's one of my favorite Jackie movies, because it's front to back fun and really well crafted and just snappy and gets to the point without much fat around it.
Yeah, it's so efficient. Like, you are introduced to the bad guys in the first minute. You know who everybody is. And then it goes straight into the action. And the camera work is really good at sort of conveying all the information you need to know. There'll be like a suitcase full of drugs. The camera will pan up to the drug dealer, and then it'll cut to Chu, and it'll pan down to the money. It's like, that's all you need to know. It's a drug deal. And let's cut to the cops.
Exactly, and of course, in typical Jackie fashion, so when he does the action scenes, he doesn't do any of that trickery. He just wide angle, moving to follow the action, but he doesn't cut to sort of hide the action. He's just, if Jackie will jump from one place to the other, that will be one uninterrupted shot. There might be a close up, like briefly cutting in just to show the action in more detail, but it's not so much as to trick the audience thinking that there was sort of some cinematic trickery to enable the actors or the stuntmen to do that. It was done real, and that's sort of a very deliberate cinematic way of pointing to the audience in almost a metafictional level that what's happening on the screen is real. Whenever someone crashes into a bus or into a motorcycle or whatever, that's really happening, and we film it in such a way as to leave no doubt that it is really happening.
American movie, you can see there's a lot of movement. When the camera angle movement, that means the actor, they don't know how to fight. So this is why American movie, the sound effect, that's good. Then the audience, then finish the whole fighting scene. So when I'm fighting, it's a more like steady. It's not moving. Let the camera, let the audience see what I'm fighting. I never move my camera. Always steady, wide angle. Let him see I jumping down, I do the flat, I do the fall, I do the running.
Yeah, like the way he cuts is to like emphasize the impact of something so you can feel the pain. But I ran across a really interesting quote from Jackie Chan in the South China Morning Post, where he's talking about Bruce Lee. And obviously he worked after completing his time at the China Drama Academy, where he learned Peking opera. He worked as a stuntman on films across Asia, like in Taiwan and Korea, including A Touch of Zen. I was quite surprised to find out. And he also appeared in, I think it was Fist of Fury, where he was a stunt double for the main bad guy who gets kicked through a wall by Bruce Lee. And a quote Jackie Chan has from his time working with Bruce Lee was, after watching Stuntman Double for Lee, I decided from then on that I would do everything myself and let people know that it was me. You can always tell when it's a stunt double, so I make sure that audiences can always see my face. I think that's like really key to Jackie Chan's style, that he's in as many shots as he can possibly be, and you know it's him taking the risks. And you can see it in the blooper reels as well, that he's performing the stunts. He's actually helping people prepare for their stunts by doing stunts for them, by showing them how he wants them to perform. And that hands-on involvement means like we're all sucked into his world.
I think he was in all Bruce Lee movies, but he only recognizably appears in them in Fist of Fury and Enter the Dragon, I think.
Yeah, he's one of the bad guys in the base in Enter the Dragon. There's actually a screenshot of him roaming around the internet.
Yeah, I think that's the one stunt that you can see him most clearly. But I'd also, maybe I'm mistaken about this, but I also think he was one part of the stunt team in The Big Boss, but he either doesn't make it into the film, or he is in a part where you can't really recognize him. But other way, yeah. So I think that points out to some of the differences between the movie that prompted him to do Police Story, which was his second attempt to make it into Hollywood cinema with The Protector, which came out the same year, although I would assume it was shot kind of prior, probably shot around 84.
Yeah, I see Police Story as a sort of response to The Protector. Like The Protector followed Cannonball Run 1 and 2, which was like his, they were all produced by Golden Harvest, they were his attempts to break into the American market. And Cannonball 1 and 2, he was mostly it felt like a cameo appearance. Like there are so many big stars ahead of him that he gets lost in the shuffle. And The Protector was like a vehicle designed specifically for him, but it wasn't Jackie Chan style. It was like really standard Hollywood action film. It's actually like Jackie Chan style films, like an episode of The A-Team. That's how I felt about it. And so like Police Story is him actually having total creative control and being able to bring his vision to the screen.
Yeah, and the plots of The Protector and Police Story are not that different. They both involve a runway cop or a cop that tries to play hero. In fact, that line is in both movies. In both movies, the superintendent or the chief of police accuses him of trying to be a hero to the detriment of the police force. Something like that. They both sort of deal with drug lords in Hong Kong. It's just the style of the two films is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been curious. I'm not 100% sure what Jackie's objections were to The Protector. I'm assuming the violence was part of it.
Yeah, from what I've read, it's like the extreme violence, the blood, and nudity and profanity. And when you compare it to like his films are much more accessible for a wider audience, and the characters he plays are much more friendlier, more amiable. They're like everymen, as opposed to like hard-bitten cops that you see come out of Hollywood. He's more like Nick Nolte in 48 Hours in The Protector than he is Jackie Chan. So as a star vehicle, The Protector wasn't very effective for him.
Yeah, and like seeing him curse in English, it's quite shocking, especially, I mean, probably not at the time to an English-speaking audience because they probably didn't know who he was, but today watching it just sounds so off. And I honestly have no objections with Jackie Chan being in a violent and part and cursing and all that, but it's extremely unusual. And I don't know, I'm sure that was part of it. However, he later in life has done, like in 2009, he did a role called the Shinjuku Incident.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? That's a pretty dark film, and he's spoken very highly of it in interviews since. In fact, if anything, he said, I can recall a couple of interviews where he says, "I wish people gave me more roles like that," because that's been Jackie's curse since the beginning. He's always wanted to cut it as a dramatic actor, and it just never worked for him because he was always typecast as a comedy actor, as an mostly action actor. The comedy, even I think the comedy was secondary, but as an action film actor, and just whenever he tried to do drama, he was, with a couple of exceptions, he was either discouraged by the studio producers or he just didn't do very well in the box office.
And that's why Police Story is like Jackie Chan, where all the elements that he wants to bring to the screen, sort of the comedy and the action and the stunt choreography and like his tribute to like Hollywood films, 1920s, Abbott Costello, Buster Keaton, that's where it all came together. And that was like the moment he had creative control and like enough experience and ideas from the American market to create a package which really sold him.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things, actually. So in terms of, you can also see, even if you take The Protector at face value and try to judge it as a serious action film, it has some really impressive stunts in it and impressive action scenes, but the way the director shot it, you can so obviously see the difference that it's really not a Jackie Chan film, because it doesn't use a lot. I think it's pretty reserved in Hollywood trickery, but it still resorts to those close-ups and cuts and using telephoto lens instead of wide-angle lenses to make it more like the rest of Hollywood at a time. Whereas Police Story has none of that.
It's more dynamic.
Yeah, like you said, it's action like Jackie intends it, where everyone can see his face.
I actually did count the number of cuts in one of the fight scenes that Jackie has when he's escorting Selena back to his apartment and they get ambushed.
So this is in Police Story?
In Police Story, yeah. And it's like 45 cuts in 3 minutes. And there's use of 3 vehicles. And that, like, there's so much energy and attention going on the screen. In contrast, The Protector is very, very staged. It's like a single shots, wide angle, and it's more like traditional martial arts films.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, a lot of that, especially including, the very stereotypical one-on-one boss fight at the end.
But yeah, like you said, there's some fantastic stunts. Like when the crane lifts Jackie or Detective Wong and a villain up high into the sky. This is like a sort of breathtaking moment because he's just so high.
Yeah, and in fact, Jackie has never, and of course there are exceptions, but Jackie has never been, for me, the kind of actor where I want to see him fight one-on-one traditionally. I want to see him the more elaborate stunts or the more creative fights where he just kind of essentially tries to fight his way out of a sticky situation instead of taking people one-on-one in a brute force contest.
Yeah, in many of his films, he's usually fighting off a gang of people, and that's sort of what that helps make him endearing, because we're rooting for the underdog. He's literally overwhelmed by people, and he has to use his wits and his initiative and the objects around him, and that creates exciting action scenes.
Yeah, and exactly. And a lot of times he's not necessarily trying to show that he's the strongest in the room. He's just trying to escape the situation or try to survive the situation in a sense. And I think that, yeah, that's as you said, it makes him endearing and gives him the underdog image.
Well, it's kind of like for his early career, he was positioned as the next Bruce Lee. He was actually in a film called New Fist of Fury,
which is terrible.
And when he started getting creative control, when he started choreographing his own fights, and I think that was with 2 films with Yuen Woo Ping, Drunken Master and Snake and Eagle Shadow. He became massively popular then. And so it's kind of like everybody regards Bruce Lee for his technique and his physicality, whereas Jackie Chan was able to create a new form of martial arts movie which drew heavily upon comedy and stunt work.
Yeah, and exactly. And speaking of comedy, there's and this is something that I've seen in a lot of Hong Kong films, sort of the breaking of genre, the mixing of genre rather. If you pay attention to Police Story, the first 20 minutes of it, there's not a single hint of comedy. In fact, that first scene where they're preparing the stakeout for the drug lord to come out of that slum area in Hong Kong, it's very grueling. It's very it's very thrillery. There's nothing comedic about it. There's one actor that literally pees his pants out of fear and shell shock. There's no way an American or Western comedy would start like that. Of course, there might be exceptions that I'm not thinking about. There always are. But as a matter of practice, it's just you don't see that in a typical comedy. But in Hong Kong, you see that a lot, and it's evident in Police Story. You see, that just starts like that, then it turns into slapstick comedy 20 minutes later, and then it goes back to serious, and then back to comedy, and then ends on a very, very serious note.
Yeah, I like how the film actually mirrors itself, because you've got fight scene where he's fighting from the top of the hill down to the bottom at the start, and it's deadly serious. And then at the end, he's fighting from the top of the mall down to the bottom of the mall. And again, it's deadly serious. And you're invested in the emotions. And the reason you're invested in the emotions at the very end is because of all the comedic parts in the middle. You really love the guy.
I just mentioned earlier how Jackie had tried to make it into drama and just was never able to cut it. That's why his reputation, you haven't seen him in a lot of stuff lately. And I think that was maybe his biggest mistake. I think... and this is my very humble opinion, that if he had tried to, instead of focus on drama as an alternative to his action work, if he focused on just comedy, not action comedy, but if he tried to develop his comedic chops as just a comedic actor, which I think he is able to do very, very well, I think he could have had his career extend past his action phase and become a successful comedic actor. Maybe kind of sort of like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, Naked Gun series.
Exactly, yeah. Naked Gun, Police Squad, Airplane, and everything else. I mean, I think that's what he did. He found out that he was able to do comedy late and had a second act in his career. And I think Jackie Chan could have done the same if he focused on that instead of trying to make it into drama, which is never do. Even though I think some of his dramatic roles, like Heart of Dragon, are okay. I think he's gotten praise for his role in Heart Dragon. I think he mostly just screams in that movie whenever the role requires for it. But I think it's a decent movie otherwise.
To be honest, I haven't seen many of his later works. I think I stopped watching around the time of Rush Hour.
I think the last Rush Hour was 2007. Yeah, so Shinjuku Incident came out 2009, and I think that's one of his dramatic roles that I think he was very good in. And after that, he seems to has done a series of propaganda films for China, somewhat surprising. And then what else? Oh, he did the Chinese Zodiac in 2012. Not essentially a typical Jackie Chan action comedy, except it's Chinese, not Hong Kong. Otherwise, it's typical, and of course, it's really not as impressive as his earlier work. Although the stunts are impressive in that one. He did a new Police Story, not yet another sequel, and I think this is again Chinese, and it's a serious movie, not a comedy. And I think that's the last of him I've seen. He's done several movies since then, but I haven't seen any of them, and I don't think any of them have gotten any particular notoriety.
I remember seeing a trailer for Bleeding Steel, and it looked heavy on CG, and Jackie was showing his age.
Is that a recent film?
Yeah, 2017, I think.
Okay. And I know he's done a couple of animated films, maybe recently, but I can't say that I've seen any of them.
Oh, he's got Rush Hour 4 coming up, apparently.
That's been rumored for a while. It might be one of those things that it's always in the making, but there's not actually any actual filming that started. But yeah, I think always. So Jackie Chan careers is, of course he's got nothing to complain because he's one of the most popular, recognizable actors in the world, but there's a tragic element to it because it follows more or less the trend of Hong Kong cinema. He rose up to fame just as Hong Kong cinema rose up to international fame. He was at his peak when Hong Kong cinema was at its peak, and then he started declining just as Hong Kong cinema started declining. So I find that very prescient. And also, it's also the story of age. His entire work was based on, physical fitness and the ability to do really impressive stuff. And it's just, as he get older, he just could not do the same things anymore. And it's just, there's that element, that human inevitability that his career followed, that it was inevitable, be it sad to watch it happen.
Yeah. absolutely. Because we've still got that image of him from our childhoods where he's just irrepressible, full of energy. And now in his sort of, I don't want to say twilight years, but in his autumn, he's having to pick out more dramatic roles, which he's not necessarily given scripts that serve him well. They just play on his persona. And there's some really strange stuff going on with his involvement with the Communist Party in China, which has disappointed many fans.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of give him a little bit slack of it, because if they keep throwing money at him, I don't think many people would refuse, and especially since they could probably ruin his career if he didn't cooperate.
Yeah, there's like with mainland China, there's sort of like the power that it has a chilling effect on actors. They have to toe the line.
Absolutely. That's sort of whenever some Chinese figure gets criticism for supporting the actions of the Communist Party, I'm always a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? More understanding, because
sympathetic.
Sympathetic, exactly, because that's not necessarily what they believe, although, but it's just something that they have no choice but to do. Although in the case of Jackie Chan, it might be actually what he believes, because from what I've read, he's made statement beyond what he has to do. And he might be, and it could just be economical. Maybe he's just gotten comfortable with the Chinese money from his recent movies, and is just, why diss them when he's making so much money out of them?
That's the thing. We're on the outside. Unless we ask him and find out his reasons, all we can do is speculate.
Yeah, but I'm still holding out hopes that someone will just cast Jackie in a comedic role, just as a funny grandpa, like Jackie could do the funny grandpa role.
I don't know, wasn't The Spy Next Door something like that?
But that was still an action movie, wasn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping for some other kind of comedy, like I don't know. I don't know what it would look like, but I just want him to try it, to do it, to try to be in a comedic film outside of his
a straight comedy.
Maybe something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's like a sign of how big Jackie Chan was in Hong Kong that he was able to bring in Maggie Cheung and Bridget Lin, who were like two big actors. Well, Bridget Lin was a big actress in Taiwan, and Maggie Cheung had just won Miss Hong Kong pageant.
She just started acting. This was her second or third acting role, I think.
Yeah, with winning a Miss Hong Kong pageant, she was able to get television work. That was one of the rewards for winning the pageant. And they could just be like token characters, but they have very meaty roles. And I love the way that they can influence fights. They can they add a dynamic element to each fight where they can intervene and help out Jackie in some way. And they play the comedy perfectly.
They obviously, I don't think they did all of their own stunts, but they did a significant percentage of their own stunts. Like, I don't think Bridget Lin did the stunt of falling off the building into the swimming pool.
I'm sure that's a guy doing that jump.
Yeah, I don't think that's her. But the fighting in her room with a fake intruder, that was her. Maggie Cheung being dragged off the motorcycle, I think that's her as well. Although you can't clearly see her face.
Well, you can. Maggie Cheung sustained some serious injuries in Police Story 2. There's a corridor scene where she's being pursued by one of the Mad Bomber crew, and he. There are these metal racks that he pushes down, and they fall like dominoes towards her, and she's running away from them, and one of them hit her on the head.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and you can clearly see that it's her doing that.
Yeah.
But jumping the timeline a little bit, in Police Story 3 with,
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh, yeah, and she did, I think, all of her stunts, and I think at the time, this is anecdotal, but she was trying to really prove herself as an action star. So she insisted on doing some of the most dangerous stunts herself, like in one scene where she jumps into a moving car, and in one of the outtakes, you can see her falling from the car into the street and almost being hit by another passing car. So they're really impressive.
I also get the sense that Jackie, obviously with his training at the China Drama School, like he's in physical condition where he can take these knocks, and he has the techniques to pull off fight sequences and stunts. But he's also, I get the impression that he demands a lot from others only because he demands a lot from himself, and he wants perfection on the screen. And So he'll do hundreds of takes to get the right thing. And he won't ask anybody to do a stunt he's not prepared to do himself.
I can imagine him inspiring people to actually, just by example, because here's the star, an international star, actually putting his health and safety on the line. We can't just chicken out. We have to try and do the same thing. So I can imagine that being very inspiring on the set for his co-stars and stunt team.
Yeah, it's like lead by example.
Exactly.
And yeah, I want to just highlight the comedy again, especially the Bridget Lynn in her home when she's being attacked. Every element of that scene is perfection, such as the wannabe, the pretend killer. Every time he's fidgeting with his mask and having to blow out feathers because he's been hit with a pillow. Like, the facial expressions he's got is perfect. And the moments where Bridget actually intervenes in the fight and hits him over the head with increasingly big objects. That's just comedy perfection to me.
Yeah. And the beginning of that scene is also brilliant. Well, for the part where the audience is not in on it and they think it's actually intruders, and for a moment you think, oh, this is so bad. There's no way the actor or the stuntman could have been so bad at this scene, until you actually find out that it is a fake, and the guy was not trying to kill her. And it sort of plays on that trope of old horror movies where the killer would unrealistically wait before he could stab them, and there's no way a real person will do that, but just because the movie demands it, they do it. But here is actually, there's a story reason for him being so bad with his knife.
Yeah, it's like Slumber Party Massacre, only funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that's it legitimately makes you angry, questioning it. How bad could this be? But until you find out that, okay, I get it now. That's an excellent reveal. But we can continue talking about this, but I would like to go over the awards and the accolades that this movie collected.
Okay.
For a time, so he won. He was sort of the front and center at the 1985 or 1986 Hong Kong Film Awards, and it won Best Picture and Best Action Choreography. But it was nominated for Best Actor for Jackie Chan, Best Director for Jackie Chan, Best Actress for Bridget Lin, and Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. It didn't win any of those. Best Director went to Mabel Chung for The Illegal Immigrant, which I've seen, and it's an okay movie. I don't think it's he did a similar story of a couple of years later called An Autumn's Tale, and I think she won for that as well. And I think that's better than The Illegal Immigrant. Anyway. Best Actor went to Ken Cheng for a film called Why Me, which I have not seen. And Jackie was also nominated for Heart of Dragon, which he did the same year.
So, this is an example of how award ceremonies can be wrong, because I haven't heard of any of these films.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of The Illegal Immigrant, but I do think Mabel Chong is an excellent director.
Yes, it sounds like it might be worth investigating.
I was a little bit surprised that the film was not nominated for a Best Song, because I think the final song that plays during the outtakes, it's a really good, it's a very catchy song.
Yeah, I can hear it playing in my head right now. The
song was used, and I wonder if this didn't influence the direction that the second police story took. But the song was actually used, the final song, which I think it's titled "A Hero's Story," and it's sung by Jackie Chan himself, which another common feature in this film. It was actually used during real police recruitment films.
I can imagine everybody who watched this film immediately wanted to join the Hong Kong police force to become Jackie Chan.
Yeah, just like in the U.S., what's that? I'm terrible with names, but what's that plane air fighting movie with Tom Cruise?
Oh, Top Gun.
Top Gun, yeah. Like this is going to happen a lot. I'm terrible with remembering titles and names, but Top Gun inspired a lot of people joining the Air Force, and of course finding out that it's nothing like in Top Gun. But that's another story. But this was used in recruiting for the Hong Kong police, and I wonder if that's what changed the second police story to be a little bit more realistic. I wonder if the police came to Jackie Chan and said, you know what, your movie was good, but that's not really how we do things. And then maybe that's why you see the second police story taking a slightly more realistic approach, a more procedural approach with surveillance and slowing down the pace and like teamwork exactly, and hiring professionals to do professional jobs instead of Jackie being a one-man
loose cannon.
Exactly.
It could also be that Jackie was feeling his age at that point as well.
I mean, it's possible, but he was still pretty young. So that's he was born in 1954. So assuming that he shot Police Story in 1984, he was only 30 years old.
And Police Story 2 was made in 1988?
Yeah, 88. Assuming he shot in 87, he was only 33 years old. So, I mean, he was still peak physical condition. Or maybe he was just taking one hits too many, and he didn't want to risk it. But
because he suffered serious injuries in Project A and Armor of God 1.
Yeah, where
the one in Armor of God 1 nearly finished him off.
That was 86 or 87, isn't it?
Yeah, 86. It was the year after Police Story.
Yeah, that's the one where literally a piece of his skull was injected. It was impaled into his brain. And his head, maybe that's why he has not been able to learn English. It's just one too many hits on the head.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, after taking a hit like that, I'd walk away. So that's a testament to his courage and his professionalism that he kept going.
Yeah, but I mean, that would explain maybe him taking a few more precautions after that, because I don't think, and of course I cannot possibly remember all his film, but I can't think of any stunt as dangerous as the final stunt of Police Story, jumping from several floors onto a pole and sliding down into it without any ropes or protection whatsoever. And what's remarkable about that scene is that, just to list a few of the injuries, including second-degree burns, dislocated pelvis. I'm just thinking of a dislocated pelvis, which is a huge bone in your body, and just to dislocate that, imagine how painful that is. And still, if you watch, that's a one take, and you can still see Jackie landing on the ground and chasing the criminals before that cuts. So he was still doing that. And I can imagine they probably had to stop for a while because his injuries were too severe.
I read that after doing that stunt, after sliding down a 70-foot pole and getting the shot in the can, he and his crew went out for a drink. It was like 6 a.m. in the morning because they'd been shooting overnight. So they went out immediately after for a drink. I don't know if that's true. It's something I've read.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine just the preparation that he had to do for that. He had to say several Buddhist prayers. He was really scared to do it. He had he put in his pocket some sort of a prayer, a written prayer from a Buddhist monk or something like that. So I would not be surprised if that's what happened. Just to give a reason why they were shooting at night was partly because the mall had to be open during the day, and partly because he was also shooting Sammo Hong's Heart of Dragon at the same time during the day. So they had to partition his time between the different shoots.
Intense physical demands.
I don't think he's ever attempted to stunt as ambitious after that, especially after Armor of God, because his major injury in Armor of God was just trying to jump into a tree branch and just missing. So it was not a particularly difficult stunt. It just happened to go wrong, which, of course, it's always a possibility. But I don't know if you can think of any stunts that he might have done later on that match the sort of the ambition of the one in Police Story.
See, Police Story. I can't think of any. I know he's jumped towards flying helicopters to grab onto them, but I can't think of any as spectacular as that. I think it's another reason to go back and look at Jackie Chan's filmography.
And also to look at, Hong Kong film at the time, because while Chan's and his stunt teams efforts are really impressive. I mean, he was not the only one who was doing these things. A lot that was Hong Kong cinema at the time was centered a lot around these stunts. So there's a lot of impressive stunt work. In fact, there was a video released recently on YouTube where someone has outlined some of the most dangerous stunts in Hong Kong cinema that do not feature Jackie Chan at all.
Okay.
And sort of that, and the show some really, really, it's just you actually feel the pain just watching it.
Looking at clips on YouTube earlier, I found an opening sequence that's usually cut from most releases of Police Story, where there's a lot of comedy in the special squad that Jackie Chan's a part of. And just thinking back to something you said earlier, how the opening for Police Story is just so serious. I think it was a good decision to cut this opening sequence out. It was recently put on Japanese Blu-ray. And there's a 3-minute clip of it on YouTube, if you can find it.
Yeah, I'm seeing the link, but I have not seen it. So I'll definitely be sure to check it out. And I'm probably going to link it on the description of the podcast as well. So I guess we should spend some time talking about, how the franchise involved and what's our opinion of the rest of the Police Story movies. We've sort of hinted towards them, but we can maybe officially say whether we think they're good or not. What do you think about them?
So I've only seen Police Story 1 and 2.
You haven't seen 3 with Michelle Yeoh?
I've seen 3, but I have not seen the rest.
What did you think of them?
A case of... I think Police Story, the first one, was such a high standard, it feels like a case of diminishing returns.
I'm inclined to agree. I think 2 falls in quality. I think 3 is more similar to 1 in that it's a more action-packed and more of a snappy story. And I think Michelle Yeoh's inclusion is certainly a welcome addition. 4, I remember it vaguely not liking at all. And then then he did a couple of dramatic ones, which I think he both called New Police Story, one Hong Kong and one Chinese, and I can't say that I've liked either of them, especially the first one in 2004. It feels like so. He's old at this point, and there's a lot of stunt work and a lot of action in it, but it does not have. It feels a lot more like it was an American film, like it was like The Protector all over again. Although it has a little bit more of Jackie's key features in it, still it just does not. It was a disappointment for me. All right, so I guess we can probably close it here, unless there's anything else that you'd like to add to our discussion.
No, I thought we covered many things. It was quite interesting.
So, would you like to maybe close it up with our final opinion of if you had to give it out of 5 stars, what would you rank this one?
I would give it 5 out of 5. It's really well told, efficient, exciting, charming film because of direction, because of Jackie Chan's star power. Like, he knows who he is and his best qualities, and he puts them all on the screen. And I can watch it again and again.
I quite agree, and I was very tempted to give it a 5 out of 5. I'm only going to give it a 4 out of 5 because I think if I had to give a 5-star to a Jackie Chan movie, I would have to reserve that for Project A. I think Project A is a slightly better film, and so I would, if I had to give that 5-star, I can't help but just knock Police Story 1 star down. But that is just how I am reasoning it. In terms of personal enjoyment, this is just, I can watch this over and over again. I find it, a fantastic film.
This Project A and Armor of God 2, Operation Condor, those are the best.
Do you have a favorite Jackie Chan film that you'd like to throw into the mix?
Yeah, Armor of God 2.
Oh, very well. So this was our discussion of Police Story. Next time we'll be covering the Japanese film Battle Royale, directed by Kinji Fukasaku. Again, continuing our theme of getaway films that are best for introducing someone, especially Western viewers, into Asian film, into Asian cinema. This week we did a Hong Kong film. Next week we're switching to Japan, and that's Battle Royale. Is there anything you'd like to plug, Jason, before we close this show?
Oh, I don't think I thought that far ahead.
Okay. Well, I can say, follow Jason's blog, follow us at V Cinema, and I'm going to have our Twitter handles in the description of the podcast in case someone is interested in our opinions, which I don't have many, but there you go. This has been Heroic Purgatory, an Asian cinema podcast. Thank you for listening, and see you in a couple of weeks.